Alright guys, welcome to another video. You haven't already seen this. I don't know, I'm stoked on it. That's my new lift thing that I got. Someone asked, we've had a bunch of people ask where we got it from. I got it from Marketplace and it was at a Toyota dealership. I know a couple of other people that live near me definitely saw it on Marketplace. But Nick is here. Hi Nick. Nick's Mr. Subaru with a Honda motor thing, and a bunch of people said about someone else has done it before.
Yeah, Amelia.
I'm trying to see.
Amelia,
do you care? I don't care. No, I didn't care either. So anyway, we are going to flip this over and get the head off because Nick's brought around sockets that we needed to get the head off, and then we can get all the pistons and stuff out and see what the rods look like, I guess. But just nice to see the condition of the inside of the motor, considering how old the motor was. I assume that it was the original motor, and I looked at the tacho on the car before and it had over 280,000 Ks on it, and it shows by the look of the carbon build-up it hasn't had the best service life either. So we'll rip it open, have a geezer. All right, all the head stud nuts are out. So what is it, just to yank it off the top now?
Yeah, just crack it off and drop it.
All right, I'll give you this. I'll try and grab this. My rib's actually feeling a bunch better, guys, which is pretty good. Is it heavy?
Yeah, it's heavy.
Oh, is it a two-person?
Yeah,
okay, cool. All right, it's a two-person thing. Yep. Okay. Alright, so the whole thing is apart now. The bores look good. I can't see any dramas with the bores. Would you even, other than obviously having this cleaned properly, is this worth sending off?
I wouldn't. You can just give it a quick hone with like a normal dingleberry hone or something better than that. It all depends on the crank. If they're going to get oversized bearings, and the crank.
But they'd only oversize. But they'd only oversize the rod bearings. They wouldn't go and oversize the crank bearings because there was nothing actually wrong with those.
Yeah, just rod bearings.
Yeah. At least if they went oversized rod bearings, that's when you'd need to get the block sent off and blah blah.
Get it all done.
But it still needs like a proper.
Being out of it, it's a bit of getting
clean.
If you're already going to the machine shop to get the crank, you just have the whole block there.
The deck the head.
Like everything will come back flat.
Or sorry, deck the block, not the head. Deck the block.
The head's just been done. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, they'll redo the block, and their machines, they'll get it way cleaner than we could ever get it done here. Like all the gatherers will come back flush and clean and all that sort of jazz. So
yeah, so block will go off as well as the crank. Where Nick's hopeful about the crank. Yeah. Russ was a little less hopeful. All right, forget where I was at because I got a phone call, but we'll obviously have to get we send the rod caps off as well. Oh no, we're just getting new rod and rod caps. I knew that.
If you already got like a head studs, everything's already out, and just see what you can do for rods. That way you've got peace of mind.
Yeah, well I think we're probably going to do piston and rods. Like it's a part, may as well. If I do put this in something, I'm kind of want to put it in a BMW. Not going to lie, the BMW E46 was at the track the other day, VVTi 1J in that one, but I don't know. If anyone sees an E46 wagon for sale for the right price, which is like, the right price is like practically nothing, let me know. But I think this stuff would be super, super cool in a E46 wagon. I don't know, I just like them. I don't know why, I'm a wagon guy, I like wagons, I just don't own any. But there's nothing else here really to tell us from a sense of all the pistons look good. Tiniest little bit of pitting on the piston, but that would have been pre-98. That would have been pre-EA5, so back when it was on 98, or being the history of it being just an automatic car. The chick owned for a little while. Not saying all chicks are like this, but at the end of the day, probably had 91 put in at some point, which it wouldn't have really liked. Could have had a bit of ping from that. Like I said, everything else looks, there's a lot of carbon build-up considering I do give it the beans.
Yeah, had a pretty mean misfire though when
Yeah.
Where it started to knock. So.
Can't really tell where that's from though. Like they're all pretty similar looking from a sense of carbon. Maybe that one's a little bit more carbon build up. Cylinder 3. Cylinder 4, sorry. Hard to tell. There's nothing like these ones are oily because I know that they had a lot of oil all over them. Either way, kind of cool. Like I said, guys, if you watched yesterday's video, I've never taken an engine apart to this extent, so it's very, I don't know, I guess it was easier to pull apart than I thought. I know the putting back together is the important part, but it really is, it's all just measuring twice, making sure your torque settings and all that are right. Like, it's not rocket science, is it?
No, it's not rocket science at all. As long as everything's torqued and everything's new-ish, you're not putting second-hand parts in that are flogged, you'll be fine. And as long as all the surfaces are clean, new gaskets, like, it's pretty all self-explanatory. So
yeah. So I can tell you guys, Nick has raised his hand and said, bring the damn 370Z to my house, and he wants to fix it. So I don't know how much of that will film, but looks like we're gonna go and chuck new bearings in the 370Z as well. That'll be coming up really soon. Get that thing back running again. It only was a light knock. It sounded light.
Yeah, you can't hear it at idle. It's just very light acceleration. You can hear it come, but we turned it off. No more starting it now. So just push it until we get the pan off to see how bad it is, and we'll just go from there. There's nothing you can really do until you look at it. So
yeah. So we're hopeful we'll be able to rebuild that in a somewhat easy fashion. Well, in theory, won't even need to fully come apart. It would just be sump off and... Yeah,
it's sump off, which is the subframe out, which is easy. Just hang the engine with like an engine crane or a hoist, and then just drop the sump off, or the mid sump, and then just check out which one it is, and just go from there. Like, if the crank's stuffed, then it's better off to pull the engine out, because you can go through the whole thing then, but...
Yeah,
the crank's pretty good.
Yeah, I have seen another crank for sale online that is fine for like 200 bucks. So potentially get out of fixing the 370 regardless for a reasonable price. He also had rods for sale as well. So if we have
today and listen to that, they got rods. They're about 300 bucks each. That's the only way you can get genuine bearings. Yeah, so rods about 300 bucks each. That's to get the bearings. So
well, you can't just buy rod bearings for a 370Z.
They only sell them as a service item.
Oh, right. So we can't get like ACL or anything like that?
Aftermarket will, not genuine bearings. You can't get genuine replacement bearings.
And what does that mean? They'll be different sizes, potentially?
Like everyone else, there'll be other brands that ACL makes standard replacement sizes, but like OEM Nissan, they just won't sell separately from the Conrod. So
okay, so potentially if we just need, if we haven't heard any other, what Russ was concerned about is we've scored other bearings. Yeah. Other bearings are a little bit scored on the rods. The rods are a little bit marked or whatever. I don't know. See in this one, like cylinder, there's a little bit of damage. So
they get cleaner as you go down. Like number 5 would be a little bit because it's right next to it, but it goes, down the line it gets a bit cleaner. It's pretty much nothing at number 1. So
yeah, but I also, if you guys remember in that video where the JZX90 did blow up, we also drove it all the way in. I left it idle for quite a while, probably idled for 15 minutes while the whole thing cooled down, because I did blow up a turbo not long ago from just turning a car straight off when it was hot. So I figured I did just want to let the car just idle a bit, and it wasn't knocking hard on idle or anything, but you know, I didn't help that whole situation there, I don't think, by letting the car run for longer, which would have allowed bearing material to get through other stuff. So at least for the 370, it was driven into the pits, 100 meters from where it started knocking, and then it was driven like 50 meters over to where it's parked now. So yeah, we'll make sure no more startups, get it on the trailer, get it around to Nick's house, and then magic will happen.
That's fingers crossed.
Yeah. So
it's cheaper than doing an engine, that's for sure. It's at least worth a try to have a look at it.
Yeah,
I've done plenty of just bearing replacements. It's pretty common in Toyota RAV4s and that sort of thing.
Yeah, well, we've done, like, I know when I was racing for the Holfords team, I know that we got a small knock when we were at Queensland Raceway, and like on the Saturday night of the event, we took the car back to the workshop, dropped the dropped the cross member, dropped the sump, replaced bearings, like just gave it a small linish with like sandpaper, I think, with real light sandpaper, and gave it a polish, and threw bearings back in it, and ran the next day running 530 horsepower at the wheels all day long, a bunch of limiter, and you know, we gave that thing hell. I think the engine did get pulled out after that to get fixed properly, if I'm mistaken. Might not have been, actually, I'm not sure, but that was a situation that did happen, and we were able to just throw a bearing at it and keep going. So fingers crossed we can do the same with 370 and get that thing back out on track, slaying tires like it should be. All right, 1J is cocooned to try and keep any moisture out, rust, whatnot. Got all this stuff just covered up. That's important, but we've left it all oily. We haven't washed any oil off, which I've been told is very important, and I didn't know about it, so obviously don't want anything to rust, so leave it oily, don't clean it. I can do that easy. So other than all this, with everything that was going on with the 370Z, we were meant to get this delivery here just before Chris drove the car. So a bunch of new goodies from GK Tech for the 370Z. So I'm gonna open this up and show you guys some of the stuff, and then obviously once we fix the engine in that car, we'll be able to get it onto the car, but I just want to open it up and have a look, so may as well show you guys. Right, so two new items from GK Tech I'm personally extremely pumped on is the new 370Z bash plate. The bash plate, if you run a standard sump, isn't that important, but one of the coolest things I think, if anybody that owns a 370, even if you're not drifting or anything, this part goes from the front rad support to the front bumper to support the front bumper. And if you're a drifter like I am, you know, the more support you can have for your bumper, the better. And I've been wanting this part forever. I used to have issues when I used to time attack the 370Z. I had issues with the bumper folding in, even with all the standard attachments. I even had the front bumper fly off. I had all the factory attachments on the front and rear bumper, and both bumpers blew off the car when I did 197 km/h backwards entry. I still think the bumper should stay on at that speed. I've had fiberglass stuff stay on at that speed, so I don't see why factory bolted stuff should come off. So super rad item from the guys at GK Tech. I'm very happy about. Some other stuff. Just gonna wrestle this. The Adam's car has to be painted at some point anyway. And then I've gone ahead and got some new rear arms for the 370. And then I've got another thing which I've been complaining about for quite some time. Guys from GK Tech, again, ahead of the ball. This is something I haven't even mentioned to them, but something that they thought of, which is remote hydraulic handbrake master cylinder, to basically, for people like me that want to hide their handbrake underneath the dash, they've gone ahead and done a remote setup from Willwood, and they've adapted it to the GK Tech setup. So I'm going to be putting that on the 370Z pretty soon as well. Tie rods, you can never have too many tie rods, because drifting, door-to-door tandeming results in bending tie rods. That's just part of life when you go door-to-door. So I've gone for a remote combination master cylinder, wherever it is. I don't know. I've got things in here. I'll have to go through it all properly. Probably more so when I go to put it on thing. Traction arms for my 370 for the rear. So I've done a number on mine. That's my handbrake bracket, because you guys know I broke my handbrake bracket after years. T-pieces I need for the 90 to delete the ABS. Wheel nuts, because you need wheel nuts. And then I've got some spacers to just replace some spacers on the 370Z that I had cross-threaded and broken some wheel studs and stuff on, so we can get all that under control. But super stoked to have the support of guys like GK Tech. If you need anything for your car, guys, definitely go check them out. They don't have any discount codes because everything is so bloody cheap anyway, so go check them out. I'm gonna go on to other things. Alright guys, we're here at K-Swap Garage, day 2 of this video. Got pretty busy yesterday. You guys have met Nick a couple times in the videos now with K-Swap Subaru, but his specialty is K-Swaps. We've got a K and we've got a 370Z. Don't worry, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. We're fixing the 370Z motor. It did cross our minds a little bit. Definitely crossed my mind, since that's like Nick's specialty is K-Swaps, but this thing doesn't need a swap. It just needs to do what it did before. That'd be fair?
Yeah.
Or do you kind of want to?
These are more power, more reliability from stock anyway. Like once you put one of these in anything, it becomes modified, then they can be reliable, but there's more work, you know. And this is could be a minor repair. We won't know until you get the sump off to look at it. But you know, if it's just a simple thing with bearings, then it just straight back to sending it instead of having to fix it all and rebuild and custom this and custom that. So
yeah, I agree with that.
Like, and then to match that power, you still need to put a turbo on it, and then with turbo comes more torque, which then becomes rods. It's just a snowball effect when you're already starting with a V6, which is more power anyway. So
yeah, but my plan while the car here, not only are we going to fix the engine, obviously, we do have fresh doors that are going on it. So not only did Chris kill the passenger door, he got hit in competition and sort of killed, not killed, but fairly sizable dent in the driver's side door as well as the rear door. I do have rear overs coming from the States. They're not coming anytime soon, unfortunately, but we do have fresh doors to go on it. I am going to get this front bumper and try and plastic weld it up and make it look a lot nicer. And obviously once we get that new GK Tech bottom piece on there, it will hold the bumper up where it needs to be, so it stops looking sort of saggy in the left-hand front. Yeah, so that's the basic idea. We will obviously toy around the idea of possibly tubing some of the rear of this car to make everything a little bit easier, because it's very mushed. It's mushed from a sense of, you know, she's been tapped a few times. Chris tapped it on this side and smashed the tail light. I luckily do have a spare tail light for this side, I think.
To the point where making the bumper go back on is a bit too hard now.
Well, it goes back on, and it's good because it does cover everything, and you would never know that it's this bad underneath. But yeah, it is just pretty rough in the back end at the moment. Other than that, I'd probably like to put a proper passenger seat in it, just because the factory seats are super heavy. Definitely going to take the AC out now. We don't need that. I'm just going to get rid of that unnecessary stuff in front of the radiator that's not helping with cooling. So we'll get rid of the aircon setup. So that'll obviously help with cooling. I do want to get some water sprayers for the oil coolers and radiator and stuff, just to keep everything cooler, especially coming into summer here in Australia. You know, temperature is a massive issue. We are going to go to true coilover rear on this car. So Home Some Shockworks is sending me true rear coilovers, which means I can put more of the GK Tech arms in the back and finally get rid of the camber that this car has in the rear, which basically I've been able to work with, but you do get camber wear on the tyres and not using all of the tyre, which you could be using. Other than that, I think that's about it. I did toy with the idea of a V8 swap with my mate Mitch, but honestly, this car doesn't need to be torching tyres every lap, you know what I mean? The way it was pretty perfect. We can just make it a little bit lighter, you know, by doing things like taking the seat out and all the air conditioning stuff out, which, you know, I never used, honestly, I never used. So it was more just a novelty to say it's got aircon more than anything else. So yeah, anything you can think of or you want to do?
No, that's about it. Just 4 downstairs we go. Like, we're not out of the clear yet. We don't know for sure if it's just going to be a simple fix. Like, it sounds like a simple fix when I was running because you couldn't hear it at idle. So it's all just going to come down to pulling the pan off and going from there. So
yeah, and I'll get you as many updates as I can. Nick really only lives down the road from me, so I'll come and check it out all the time. But he kind of works fast. He built a whole K-Swap Subaru in like 2 months, and it probably only took 2 months because you were waiting on parts, right?
Yeah, we went on adapter that was about it. So
how many hours do you reckon you actually had into it? Like days, I'd say.
every night till like 1 a.m. for a good 2-3 months, I reckon.
Yeah.
So I bought the car as a running, driving, registered Subaru in February.
Yeah.
So I pulled the engine out of that, and that was between case swapping 2 other cars as well. So it wasn't full time from February, but yeah, probably a solid
couple of months.
Yeah, easy nearly a month of just like constant work on it. But I don't know how many hours of fabrication. Like, I redid the exhaust manifold, the turbo manifold twice because I wasn't happy with the first one. Redid the intake manifold twice, so everything's twice over. Like,
so there's something that's been wrong with this car since this engine went in it, and that's the right side extractor, or right side header, has a big hole in it. Because this engine that's in it came out of a crashed car, and the wrong headers got put back in it instead of my good headers. So we'll be able to actually fix that. This has always had an exhaust leak from the day I've driven it. Yeah. So I'm probably missing out on 10 horsepower there, just being an NA car. So
no, it's good to get on top of everything. You know, like, it's just easy to have it all here. Like, I've got a hoist coming in a few weeks, but this job particularly is going to be easier on the ground because being the subframe's going to be dropped. Like, instead of having to balance it above your head on a hoist and that sort of thing, just drop on the ground.
Yeah. Roll
out on pair of jacks. Like, this sort of stuff's good to be on the ground. Yeah, especially when you build like rear bash bars, all that sort of stuff. You need everything to be level. But, yeah.
And I have neglected this thing. I wouldn't say neglected. I just haven't cared for it as much as you probably should, because it is quote unquote the beater. It always was going to replace the 350Z as the beater car, and this car's been a test bed for GK Tech. You know, we've put all the parts on here, and GK have said beat the crap out of it, like beat it up, mate, find out the limit of our parts, like what can they handle and all that sort of jazz. Same with the Shockworks and other partners that I work with. That's the idea, is, you know, a car like this, which should have a hell of a lot of track time in, we can absolutely test everything to the limits and find out what works and what doesn't. And that's, you know, that's shown with the revisions we've done in the 370Z lock kits and stuff. So yeah, we're gonna head down the track now. We've got a drift night on. I'm gonna head down there, and you might see that in tomorrow's vlog. But otherwise, thanks heaps for watching, guys. If you haven't already, jump on Instagram, follow K-Swap Garage. I'm sure he'll be putting some things up along the way with what happens with this.
Yeah, we'll put a bit up. You record as much as I can. If you're not here, you can still put it into the vlogs and stuff. So.
Yeah. So it's all going to happen, and obviously I'll come here because I want to play with stuff on it. Like, I do want to swap the doors back over to get the fresh doors on it. You know, maybe start, you know, on other stuff when Nick's busy on the important stuff. So yeah, we're going to be rebuilding the Z, guys. She'll be back. She'll be back better than ever, possibly. I've toyed with the idea of paint. I kind of don't want to paint it until we get the rear over fender covers. But once they come, I want to be painting this car a different color. And if you can think of one that you think would look good on the 370Z, definitely let us know in the comments down below. Otherwise, thanks heaps for watching, guys, and we'll see you in the next one. How them boys doing more when they got less? How they on this and how they on that? How they got this and how they got that? Too busy watching this thing, we just stop that. Talking my shit, you know we gon' pop that. See it, I like it, yeah, I'm gon' copy that. When we on top, how you on top that now? You ain't got nothing on us. I'm steady calling you.